Would you be scared like this?
What's going on? How are you doing that? Sorry, no tips. Can you get this off me? Seriously, knock it off.
Want to hear something scary?
Ronan was bummed to be spending summer with his mom, Mindy, and her new boyfriend, Dev. It was Dev's suggestion that they stay at his family's beach resort in Goa, India. He boasted that it was better than any overhyped tourist destination. A palace by the sea for free was all he had to say to get Ronan's mom to agree to the trip. Much to Ronan's dismay, Dev picked him up from the airport alone. "Your mom's on a tour of the city,"
It's GG's for this nigga, bro.
Dev explained. Ronan sighed. His mom had only been dating Dev for a few weeks, and now he was stuck spending quality bonding time with a guy he barely knew. His mom, Mindy, was head over heels for Dev, and while Ronan was still trying to adjust, he didn't blame her. His dad was currently on his honeymoon with his new wife in Hawaii. But as soon as they stepped foot on the resort, Ronan wished he had somehow tagged along to Hawaii with his dad. The hotel didn't live up to the hype that was originally promised. It was run down, bare, and a bit plain. As Dev smiled and motioned toward the building, a snake tattoo on his arm caught Ronan's eye. As he stared at it, weirdly enough, it almost looked like it was staring back. Like the snake eyes seemed to follow him. Ronan rubbed his eyes and shrugged it off as jet lag. His flight out of New Jersey had been long and full of bad plane food. Once inside, Ronan also noticed the place seemed unsettlingly empty. Seeing the look of confusion on Ronan's face, Dev explained that the hotel was undergoing renovations, and it was technically closed to the public. Mindy and Ronan were accompanying him while he took care of the place during its off-season. Ronan rolled his eyes. "Hey, at least no one will hog the Wi-Fi," Dev offered. Before he could complain that the signal wasn't that great, Dev welcomed him with a tray of fresh seafood. It was as if it suddenly appeared. Ronan loved seafood, so he dug
Bro got bribed with fish. What the hell?
in, putting aside his grievances that he was stuck on Dev's work trip for the foreseeable future. "We're staying in the Royal Suite, room 1367. Don't get lost. I'm going to go check the grounds," Dev said, leaving Ronan a key. Sitting alone, Ronan felt as if someone was watching him. He heard some crying off in the distance toward the halls. Apprehensive, Ronan followed the noise he was certain sounded like a little girl.
"Beware the Yaksha.
He heard a voice as he made his way through the hall.
He took my mommy. He'll take yours too."
He saw a little girl run into the double doors ahead, followed by a loud splash. When he got closer, the doors swung open, and he saw a small body floating in the motel swimming pool. It was covered in snake bites. He blinked, and the girl was gone. Spooked and wondering what a yaksha was, Ronan tried to look it up on his phone, but only half the page loaded. The yaksha, a spirit that devours travelers in abandoned places. Horrified, Ronan tried to call his mom, but there wasn't a signal. Was Dev a yaksha? It was getting late, so maybe she was already in the room. If he could get to her, he could urge her to leave. He had a feeling that Dev wasn't to be trusted. He put the key into the door and barged into the room. "Mom, we have to go. I think Dev isn't..." A sharp hiss hit his ears, and there he saw Dev. His snake tattoo glowed green, and Ronan found himself completely unable to move. As he stood dumbfounded and paralyzed, his eyes adjusted to witness Dev for what he truly was. Before him towered a menacing serpentine figure with massive fangs. Dev was the Yaksha. Helplessly locked in the snake's green gaze, Ronan saw everything as he was slowly devoured whole. And then, darkness. Dev's phone rang as he bagged up the last of Ronan's belongings for disposal. He picked up the call from Ronan's mom as she asked him how Ronan was doing. Holding back a large burp, Dev replied, "I'm sorry, love. Ronan decided on Hawaii after all and switched flights. But look on the bright side. It's just us now."
Damn, just like that? What the hell?
They gotta be in on it. They gotta be. What's going on? How are you doing that? Sorry, no tips. Can you get this off me? Seriously, knock it off.
Baby, yo sé que cuando te pruebe yo me...
This happened when I was about 11 years old and lived with my 17-year-old sister Manika and my grandmother. I was sitting at the table eating dinner with my grandma when Manika quickly rushed inside. "You're home late," Grandma commented, but Manika didn't respond. Grandma called over to her to join us for dinner, but she just walked right past us and straight to her room. "Teenagers. So moody," Grandma said. I was pretty close to my sister. We weren't that far apart in age, and we could usually talk about anything. She did have a tendency to be moody, but I could feel that something was different about tonight. So after dinner, I gently knocked on her door and asked if everything was okay. I just need to be alone right now. I shrugged and headed to my own room, followed by our family dog, Snoopy. I laid in bed, but was having a hard time falling asleep. I felt really anxious and restless for some reason. I didn't understand why. Hours went by and I had given up on trying to fall asleep. I decided to take Snoopy out for a 3 a.m. walk. The neighborhood was quiet and calm. Snoopy was happily sniffing around. Then I heard a rustling from a bush a couple meters in front of us. From the bushes emerged what looked like a mangy black dog. There were a lot of strays in this part of town, so I wasn't too surprised and continued forward. But Snoopy wasn't moving. I looked down and was shocked to see him low on the ground, sneering. "It's just a dog, Snoop," I said as I yanked on his leash. But Snoopy was not budging. His sneering turned into growling. I looked back towards the stray dog and watched as the dark figure stood up, reaching its full height. That was no dog. At this point, Snoopy was barking wildly at the creature. I pulled his leash and ran in the opposite direction. I could hear the booming footsteps of that thing chasing after us.
"Why don't you play with me?"
It asked
What do you mean by that?
tauntingly. I refused to turn around or speak to it. My grandmother was a very spiritual person, and she had always told me to never engage with a spirit that's trying to get your attention. That's how you invite them into your life. So I just kept running, Snoopy following closely by my side. Luckily, my neighborhood had a lot of temples, almost one every 200 meters. I ran towards one of them and slammed the door shut behind me. I waited and listened. The footsteps outside slowed down and came to a halt. "I'll come back for you." I fell to the ground and caught my breath. Snoopy and I stayed there until the sun rose. When we got back to our house, my grandmother and sister were already at the dining room table eating breakfast. "I saw something last night. It was this thing. It was chasing us." I was struggling to find the words to describe what I saw, but even then, my grandmother knew what it was. "You didn't talk to it, did you?" "No, of course not. But Grandma, what was that?" "It was most likely a chalava. It means illusionist or a shapeshifter. They're created when an unborn child dies and the respected ceremonies aren't performed. And since the child's spirit couldn't take a good earthly form, they inhabit whatever form they can. Usually a malicious one." Manika covered her mouth. This seemed to really be upsetting her. "Where did you see the chalava?" Grandma asked. "Out by that field where the stray dogs usually are." "Ah, that makes sense. There used to be a hospital over there. It was shut down when they discovered that a doctor was performing unauthorized abortions." Manika burst into tears. "What's wrong, Manika? You've been acting so strangely lately." "That chalava? It's my fault. I'm so sorry, Gorov." Manika ran back to her room. My grandma told me that she was just being moody, but it wasn't until a few years later that I fully understood what had happened that night.
The Ubon Festival of the Spirits was coming to a close as the sun had set. The moon shone on Mika and the other teens as they performed a traditional dance to honor their ancestors, who were believed to return to visit their living relatives during this time. As they danced down the street lit up by the lanterns, their matching yukatas shimmered in the moonlight, catching the attention of the audience. When the parade ended, Mika's sister took her hand and said, "It's time to go home and celebrate with the family." But Mika shook her head. She had other plans. She told her sister to head home without her and to tell her parents that she would be home soon. Her sister was rather upset because she had wanted to spend more time with her and began to ask her one more time to come with her. But despite the protest, Mika was stern about having other plans. Alone now, Mika glanced around before she slipped off her yukata to reveal a cute, modern dress. She made her way over to a group of teens who were hanging out after the parade. She saw Ren, the hottest guy in school, and his two friends. In addition to their bad behavior, they were frequently suspended from school. Well, here you are, Ren grinned. I thought you weren't gonna show. Mika's heart raced at his attention, but her expression turned to concern when Ren announced that they were heading to the graveyard to summon ghosts. Having
It's GG's, bro. What the hell?
celebrated Ubon, the festival for spirits, on the same night, it was believed they should not disturb or offend the spirits in any way. She didn't like the idea, but she liked Ren more. She couldn't back down, otherwise, who knows when she would have the opportunity to show off to him. They arrived at the old eerie graveyard. It was completely empty, no one else daring to offend the dead. As they walked around, they saw food and gifts left over by loved ones during the festival. Ren playfully climbed a tombstone and jumped from one to the other. Meanwhile, Mika gulped, knowing how disrespectful this was. Stay cool, she told herself. As if jumping around playfully wasn't bad enough, Ren suggested they carve their names into a headstone to leave their mark. Mika knew it was wrong, but she felt compelled to prove herself to Ren and the others. She cautiously took the pocket knife Ren whipped out, trying to etch her name as lightly as, "See, if I do this one thing, it won't be as bad to the spirits." And all of a sudden, a cold breeze surrounded them, and a creepy vibe took over the graveyard. A march of restless and annoyed spirits appeared, glowing with an eerie light. Panic struck Mika and the others, and they attempted to get out of there. But each time they managed to break free, they were dragged back into the graveyard by a supernatural force. While the angry spirits had Ren's body pinned to the ground, his two friends managed to get away, leaving Ren behind, screaming in fear. Mika knew she had to act fast as she hurried over to the gate. She had behaved terribly this far, and it wasn't like her. She let her need to impress Ren cloud her judgment. She reached to the edge of the gate, then turned back to try to rescue Ren. But the spirit's grip on him was too strong. She could do nothing as she watched him slowly being strangled. Desperation surged within her as she became overpowered and was slowly dragged by these invisible hands over towards Ren. Then, suddenly, in the distance, she saw her little sister outside the gates. "No!" Mika screamed, trying to warn her sister to stay away from the evil spirits. As if a guardian angel had heard her plea, her grandmother, her Sobo, appeared at the edge of the graveyard. Her Sobo was a wise woman deeply connected to and familiar with the ways of the afterlife. She calmly approached them and began chanting ancient incantations. The spirits let go of Mika for a moment, and she was able to escape. With tears in her eyes, she reached out to save Ren, but it was too late. The spirits had claimed him for their own.
They got LeBron a chokehold. What the hell?
Mika's Sobo continued her ritual, soothing the enraged ancestors and allowing them to return to their resting place. The graveyard gradually fell silent, and soon the only sound that remained was Mika's sobs. Mika's sister had followed her that night, and when she saw the teens heading into the graveyard, she bolted to tell her Sobo that Mika needed her help. In the aftermath of the night, Mika found herself forever changed. She performed every year with her dance group in the Obon Festival, and as they swayed and twirled, they felt the presence of their ancestors watching over them, guiding their steps in an internal dance that bridged the gap between the living and the dead. Most would find this peaceful, but remember, what Mika saw and experienced was far from normal. She is still traumatized by the screams and horror on that awful night. She suddenly realized the value of the age-old traditions and rituals going forward. But she wished more than ever it did not come at the price with a human life.